Azriel Blackheart stepped into the forest clearing, golden leaves swirling around him in the autumn breeze and shimmering in the glowing sunlight. He wore a long blue cloak over matching leather armor, and his hood sat low on his face to hide his eyes.
When I was in high school, I wrote a fantasy book called Azriel Blackheart. When I was in university, I wrote its sequel, Azriel Blackheart: The Chosen. Now, 10 years later, I'm close to releasing my first ever game based in the book's universe. I'm so excited to finally be bringing the Blackheart game to life. So today I'm going to be talking a bit about the lore and the world of the Blackheart universe. Although the books in the game are based in the same world, there are big differences in the plots between them. Where I think it's worth mentioning, I'll point out those differences. This is part 1 of Blackheart lore. Here's what to expect if you read the books or play the game. Terenum is a world where magic rules. If you're part of the 1% of people born with the ability to do magic, congrats, you made it in life. So long as you've got a basic grasp of your magical abilities, you can pretty much do whatever you set your mind to. Want to be a logger who can cut down 1,000 trees a day? Go sell all that lumber and make a massive profit margin. Want to fight in the army of a local warlord? You're worth the equivalent of 50 soldiers. Does the random chance of being born with magic largely dictating your entire life path make the world unfair? Yes, absolutely. Terenum is a harsh place where the majority of people, called established, live meager, unfulfilling lives, while their mage overlords rule with absolute power. Speaking of magic, how does it actually work? In the Blackheart universe, there is the physical realm, which is pretty much the equivalent to our human dimension, and then there is the ether. Only a small portion of people are born with the genetic mutation that allows them to see into the ether, and they can wander it with their ether selves to collect runes. A rune is like an abusable flaw in reality, which, once claimed, allows the user to bend the laws of the physical realm to their wishes, and do things that should be completely impossible. In other words, magic. Runes can be as straightforward as allowing the caster to produce a fireball to throw at their enemies, or as powerful and nuanced as creating multiple clones of oneself to be in 2 places at once. Collecting runes isn't as straightforward as it sounds, however. The ether is also populated by monsters called ether spirits. These spirits come in many different shapes and sizes, but they all have a couple of things in common. Namely, they love to feast on magic, and they especially love to kill mages' ether selves. If your ether self dies while you're wandering the ether, you're essentially severed from your consciousness permanently. Your vacant body will still go on doing the subconscious tasks like breathing and making your heart beat, but eventually you're destined to just enter a coma and eventually die. This is why walking the ether is considered dangerous, especially as you go deeper in. The deeper you go into the ether, the more powerful and terrifying the ether spirits become, and nobody alive has ever seen the center of the ether. In the books, ether spirits are largely contained within the ether until much later in the plot, but in the game, you get to see a lot of them up close and fight with them as you progress throughout the world of Terenum. The top dogs of the magic world at today's date. The top dogs of the magic world at the current date are the Blackheart family, Varen being their patriarch. The Blackhearts have a history of instability in their family, and there have been many occurrences of internal coups and fratricide, which makes them extremely paranoid of each other. Varen is super paranoid, and he actually subjects his children to a weekly ritual called congregation, which is where he forces all of his children to get together in one place, and he reads their minds of everything they've done in the last week and determines whether or not they are planning to betray him or not. This supposedly ensures all of his children's loyalty to him. However, some of his children have figured out ways to cheat the system. In the books, this is quite strongly emphasized, but tying congregation into the game proved to be very difficult, so we left it out. The youngest living Blackheart, Azriel is the protagonist of the books and the game, and he's very much the black sheep of the Blackheart family. Although he's had his head filled with all of his family doctrines, such as the uselessness of emotion and the inherent inferiority of the established, he's not a fundamentally bad person. His journey involves a lot of loss and tragedy, and he does some pretty questionable things, but ultimately follows an arc of growth and understanding, which leads him to view life and the world as precious and worth conserving. Blackheart explores big concepts like morality, social structures, and philosophy. If that sounds like something you're interested in, I would totally encourage you to check out the books or play the game. Links will be in the description of this video. This was part 1 of my Blackheart lore videos. In the next part, I'm going to explore the geography of the world, the most powerful mage to have ever lived, and the origins of magic. See you then.